Oh my God. Deontay the Bronze Bomber Wilder from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. He says he is breaking up sparring partners, breaking ribs. A couple of them were snoring. And this is all in preparation for Tyson Fury. And we're going to talk about that.
You guys' fight. And he said, listen, quote, I just felt like Deontay Wilder is a formidable ex-champion, has a chance to come back, but I just knew that when he gets to the top level, it would be difficult because it's one thing getting there, it's another thing staying there. We've seen in some of his fights, it's been difficult for him. Then he lands his punch and he's been victorious. But I've always believed that when you go to war, you can't have just one weapon in your arsenal, which was his right hand. That was his quote when they asked him about you two fighting.
At the end of the day, Brian, I go down in history. It's only been 6 fighters in the history of boxing that have defended that title 10 times. I've done it for 10 defensive titles for 5 years. So don't tell me about going to a next level and having a weapon that you need more than one weapon to do so, because with that being said, I've already debunked that situation, that case. No matter what people may say, I've debunked that. I'm amongst the elites. You know what I'm saying? I topped Muhammad Ali in his second reign with what, if you want to say one weapon. I guarantee you none of my sparring partners that ever come down to camp with me would tell you differently. I guarantee you that. Yeah, especially in this camp where I've broken ribs and dropped so many of them that had some snoring and saying and talking in their sleep. They wouldn't tell you that. So, you know, that's the thing about boxing. Styles make fights, and that's just the end of it, man.
What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Listen, somehow, some way, you found this video. I don't know how, I don't know why, but you found it. So the best thing you could do is help others find the video by hitting the like button. Simple gesture, it's free, and it goes a long way so others can find the content. In addition, if you will be watching Wilder vs. Fury 3 legally, order it using my link. Link is in the description. There's a separate link at the beginning of my descriptions, or you can go to the link tree. It's the top link. It says order here, Wilder Fury Part 3, etc. That does help the channel in a phenomenal way when you guys click on that link. And it should be a great card. Undercard is stacked. And the main event, you already know. Now, Deontay the Bronze Bomber Wilder, he did an interview with Brian Custer. And in this interview, it was an hour long. So they went over a lot of things. In fact, at the time of recording this video, I haven't even listened to every single thing that they discussed because I haven't made the time to listen to it. But I have heard it broken up in spots, and I heard what I needed to hear. Now, Brian Custer, I believe, was asking the question about Anthony Joshua, and he was quoting something that Anthony Joshua said, and I brought this up after Joshua lost to Usyk. Joshua had a lot to say before he lost to Usyk and after the Wilder lost to Tyson Fury. Joshua said that Deontay Wilder is not an elite fighter and you can't go to war with one weapon. Ironically enough, October 9th, we will find out if Wilder gets Sophia back, the WBC champion, and becomes that again, right? Joshua ends up losing to a former cruiserweight, and Joshua unnecessarily, because if you think about it, this whole interview where Joshua made that comment was kind of out of left field. This was like a year after Wilder had already lost to Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury was being drugged through a legal proceeding because he tried to duck smoke with Deontay Wilder, and Wilder had to take him to basically court and do a mediation/arbitration process to confirm and make sure that he gets that second contracted fight, aka the trilogy fight that everyone's excited for this weekend. So Joshua, it was just really way out of left field for Joshua to even be talking about Deontay Wilder, and you know, it really was hating. I made a video about it at the time, but needless to say, Brian Custer brought it back up. Joshua, he's the one that ended up losing to Usyk, a cruiserweight guy, much smaller, at least 20, 30 pounds lighter than Joshua. Joshua was the champion. Usyk was the challenger. Credit to Usyk. Usyk did his thing. I thought he looked good in that fight. But Wilder, in response to this Joshua question, he gave a sneak peek of the evolution. Wilder has already said and often said since the Fury loss, this is what he needed. And he's also went on to say that he learned so much. He learned who was on his side and tweaked some things around. And at the end of the day, I think Wilder's in a great spot. He tells you the old Wilder is dead and gone. There is no more old Wilder. He's the rebuilt, rejuvenated Wilder. Now, in this line of questioning from Custer, Deontay Wilder admits that he says Joshua can say what he wants, but I got 10 title defenses. I'm in the history books with guys like Muhammad Ali, who a lot of people say is the greatest. He's definitely one of the greatest, right? So he says, regardless of what people say, they can say anything, but that's in stone. And I agree with Wilder. I think a lot of people always talk about this right hand and the right hand nuke and missile and stuff, and they tend to forego everything else that Wilder is doing right. Listen, throughout the history of boxing, we've seen many guys who were fully capable of carrying power, but they never did what Wilder did with all that power. Guys like Lucas Matisse, he lost to Victor Postal, a good boxer from the Ukraine. It's not that Victor Postal had more power than Lucas Matisse, is that he was the better man on the night and he chose a good game plan and boxed him. Kendall Holt, he lost to Lamont Peterson. You can't tell me Lamont Peterson carried more power than Kendall Holt. So Wilder is living proof that he's doing something else outside of just the realm of power, or his power is something this world has never seen in the history of boxing, because there's been other powerful guys that I just mentioned and they lost. They lost to way lesser people. Wilder lost one fight. A lot of people think Tyson Fury cheated and Fury had to come in 50, 60, 70 pounds heavier than him. So it didn't make sense for Joshua and the UK fans and a lot of people to hate on Wilder when they say Fury's the best. So even if you don't believe that Fury cheated like I do, then why would it be such a shameful thing? Meanwhile, Joshua was losing to Andy Ruiz on a 5-week training camp, and he's shorter, much shorter, and he didn't even have full time to prepare. And at that point, his career wasn't like it was booming. He had like one fight with PBC and had recently been bought out from his contract with Top Rank. And after the Joseph Parker loss, Andy Ruiz pretty much was kept on ice, and he really wasn't moving about. He even talks about this. He said at one point he was near homeless and his bills was racking up, right? So it came at the right time. Usyk, same thing. He's a former cruiserweight, 2 performances in the heavyweight division that didn't impress. Derek Chisora, he was losing rounds early on that fight, especially. His fight with Chaz Tablespoon, that was a replacement for Tyrone Sprong, late terms, and he didn't even look good versus Chaz Tablespoon. Oh my God. So it's like people, I don't know what it is about Wilder, but people do not want to give this man any type of credit. And they want to say he's a one-trick pony and all that stuff. So Joshua, he's a powerful guy. He's almost Wilder's height. He's 6'6", and he's supposed to be a puncher, and he's supposed to be technically and fundamentally sound. So why is Wilder? We'll see this weekend, but right now Joshua's the only one with 2 losses. He's the only one with 2 losses, right? And he's the guy that y'all say, oh, he's a textbook fighter. He's a gold medalist. Wilder's a bronze medalist. Told you, it's like these triangle theories in boxing never work. They never actually pan out to mean anything. Joshua is supposed to be the better boxer, the more fundamentally sound, the technical guy. But at the end of the day, he's the guy with 2 losses to smaller men. At the very least, Wilder has 1 loss. We'll see what happens this week. But it's against a bigger man who's coming in 60, 70 pounds heavier than him and is almost 7 feet tall, who can box. You know what I mean? So I'm not understanding it. Now, back to the sparring aspect. Deontay Wilder's team are all on the same page. I think that much is apparent. And I believe them. I believe Wilder's doing these things that they're saying. Now, I don't always just believe what people say. I don't, because at the end of the day, people will say anything, especially if it benefits them. The reason why I believe Wilder's team is because Wilder's team has not showed me that they're a pack of liars constantly jockeying for position or lying to further Wilder's accomplishments or to make Wilder look good. That's more so Tyson Fury's team. So I do believe Wilder is breaking people's ribs and breaking people down in sparring. You look, he's so focused. He's clearly in shape. The power is the last thing to go, so we know his power is still there. So imagine if he was strong and people said he was a one-trick pony. Imagine if he tightened up with Malik Scott in certain areas. You dealing with something else. You dealing with something deadlier. So I believe it. And it's not just Wilder saying this to Brian Custer. In a separate interview, Malik Scott said the same thing. He says Wilder had people snoring. So to me, I don't see why both of these brothers would just be making that up. Again, I know there's some times where you'll hear stuff like, oh, Fury's destroying sparring partners, but that seems like planted information because it's just randomly you wake up and there's an article and it's a sparring partner saying, oh, he's unbeatable, or Fury's destroying sparring partners. And it's just like, okay, where did that come from? This had nothing to do with, he wasn't even talking about sparring, but to illustrate his point of him not being a one-trick pony, then he brought that up and said, ask these guys in my camp if I'm a one-trick pony. You guys heard it at the beginning. So I think Wilder's going to be very dangerous. He keeps what he already had, and he's just added on to the canvas. Let me know what you guys think. Wilder destroying folk in sparring. Very easy to believe, not really debatable or something hard to believe that a guy hitting like that. I mean, we hear these stories about certain fighters that are special, especially with special power. I talked to Gervonta Tank Davis's people on the team, and they said Tank's been doing this for years, breaking people's noses and jaws and running through sparring partners, and they had to tell him to calm down and, like, you know, get some good quality work because you're sending too many people home and bruised up. So it's nothing new for massive punchers like Deontay Wilder and Gervonta Tank Davis. Let me know what you guys think. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. I can't wait for this fight, as always. Hey, comment and subscribe to the next videos, Ego Son.